Good afternoon, everybody. Very exciting day to kick off the 2025 off-season program. Just walking down the hall right now, I was telling John, just always love this building when we've got players in it. It's one of my favorite times of the year, you know, whether it's players we've added, impactful guys we've brought back, and seeing the group of guys in that team meeting room to kick it all off. Fantastic for us as coaches, and as we continue to kind of steamroll through our roles in the off season, getting the players back and getting them going from a standpoint of what we have is a really good program planned out. Tyler Williams and Joe DeStora have really put together a really good benchmarks for us to hit and landmarks we want to get to as far as building our football team up and getting a lot of guys on the grass here when we get into phase 2 and phase 3. And still going to be the teaching and learning phase this time of year, but we really feel good about putting our team in a good position to attack this season. With that, I'll open it up to you guys.
Kevin, last week, Kwesi was talking about how your relationship has grown in terms of the draft and decisions you're going to make like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, how do you see that in terms of how you guys have grown together with a lot of decisions that have been made through these last few years?
Yeah, we just, we've got experience of, working through different phases of the offseason together. The draft being one of those things, how we go about deploying the coaches to really, supplement the scouting department and the guys that are out and about year-round, learning about a lot of these players. And then when we're able to come back, have the kind of dialogue that we've had, it's led to some big-picture discussions that maybe impact decisions that you're not even talking about in that moment. But other times it's been about finding the best possible fits and really working through what the draft is, which is a unique opportunity to add talent to your team. But there's 31 other teams doing the same thing, and albeit, different places in the draft, different circumstances, there's a lot of movement that can happen. So we just do our best to try to make sure as a coaching staff we're handling our role in the evaluation, the role that the player is going to have here, the fit, the upside, what our development plans for that player would be. And then I just think for Kwesi and I, just the amount of times now we've had over these years to have that one-on-one dialogue where he can always trust that I'm in a role here that I want to make sure he gets everything that he needs from myself and the coaching staff to really pair with the hard work that our great personnel department does to make sure we're just making high-quality decisions that have been run through a really good process and ultimately, a really good time of year to have the big picture in mind, but then also understanding what each individual move at this point with what we've done in a really successful free agency, what that can mean to this year and beyond, really. So fun time of the year. Love getting to have the type of collaboration we have in this building, and I think we've really seen some good things come from that, during our time here, and now kind of have a blueprint for how we want to operate.
Kevin, what are the big things with J.J. McCarthy that you want to emphasize in the teaching phase of this offseason as you go through these next few weeks?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, he's done a phenomenal job. What I would really call that kind of invisible habits, invisible work that he's done when really nobody's been watching. In many ways solidifying and finalizing his rehab, then on into a phase where he's really been able to push it on the field from a throws and working his technique and fundamentals, and then ultimately, the mental side of it as well. He's always working, and now he gets the ability to, from day one, learn everything from day one as we go through our installations multiple times this spring, and just the different checkpoints. I think the spring is set up perfectly for J.J. with where he's at from a standpoint of phase 1 really being in a classroom setting, running and lifting and a continuing of what he's been able to do. Well, a lot of his teammates haven't been here. Now the group comes back. He continues that, and then eventually gets on the field and we can start throwing and catching a little bit before, finalizing those 2-3 weeks of OTAs and minicamp where you get a little dabble of that competitive feel, running the huddle, running the show. So all of it is going to be kind of systematically planned out for him, and I think he's ready to attack it.
When are you maybe hoping
Yeah, hope would be, a unique word to use, but I would say just the plans of, we've been patient and we've really evaluated a lot of different ways that we could potentially do that. There's potential trades and free agency and still the draft. We're going through a process of just figuring out who is the player we want to solidify that room with, and knowing that JJ and Brett are here working starting today, and eventually we'll complete that room out and still have a competitive situation in there, however you look at it, and it's important that all those guys look at it like that. But we've got a pretty detailed plan for how we want to go about it, and when that happens, the timing of it remains to be seen.
Well, he said something earlier in the offseason, JJ did earlier in the offseason, about the Vikings haven't told me I'm the starter, and I wouldn't expect them to tell me I'm the starter. I'm just curious, in your mind, how you envision that, managing that part of his development, and how, when that kind of comes about.
Yeah, I think, the development word is important, but I think we're going to see, much more than just development now. Now it becomes a real tangible day in and day out. We can create a world here where it might not feel like a checkpoint. It might not feel like another step in the process, but you're stacking so many days and time with his teammates together, and just the growth through the installations and how the quarterback fits with those installations and his absorption of what we're doing. We've got a new center in Ryan Kelly, a veteran who's going to be, heavily involved in that aspect of the quarterback-center dynamic. And then, thankfully, we've got a lot of really high-quality skill players that JJ's, already worked with in the past and thrown and caught with before. So it'll be a matter of what do the X's and O's look like when there's not competitive games? What do the fundamentals and technique look like when we're really trying to harness growth? And then that development word comes in, where we might not be talking in the same lens that we did a year ago when everything was brand new. That's the beauty of the year we've had with him, albeit without the physical reps since the injury, but there's been a lot of time on task. And just once again, want to credit JJ for how he's handled really these last 2.5, 3 months or so, where I think he's ready to hit the ground running as of today.
Kevin, with only 4 picks, what is your goal for what you guys get out of this draft?
Well, I think the starting point on all of that would be looking at what we did in free agency, where I truly do feel like we have a roster that really, I don't know if we're going to be on the clock at any one of those particular 4 picks and think we need to do anything. But at the same time, I think where the depth of this draft is, and you're not only just drafting for 2025, you're trying to build something that sustains, and what does your depth look like at different positions, and where can you have really competitive situations that'll make your team better. I think we've gone about the process as if we have much more than 4 picks. It certainly feels like it, and I'm sure it'll really feel like it on Thursday and Friday and Saturday when we're recognizing a lot of these names that are getting selected. But at the same time, when our picks come up, we should have a really, really good feel for the players in those areas, and have done a lot of work on the players that will inevitably be adding to the team. So don't look at it as anything more than a positive outcome from what we did in free agency. A lot of the guys we targeted are Minnesota Vikings, and that's across offense, defense, that's across a lot of different positions. And to know that the target to get them to sign ratio, we're hitting for a pretty good average right now for a lot of different reasons. A lot of different people who put in a lot of hard work and what this place has become, and players want to come play here. So now we've got a roster we feel like we can really truly be selective on who we're going to pick, and what that looks like in conjunction with what our depth charts and our team already look like.
What was kind of behind the decision to move Dan over to outside linebackers coach and have him be in charge of that room?
Yeah, it was really, with Mike Pettin, Mike was originally brought here to be in the role he's kind of in now. We really saw him being truly an extension to help me with all, I get pulled in a lot of different directions. So to have a former NFL head coach as the assistant head coach was always my plan from day one. He's just been so good at adapting to really multiple areas when we've needed him. And really a huge part of Pep being here was always to have a defensive perspective in the offensive staff room, much like we now have with a former NFL quarterback in the defensive staff room in Charlie Fry. So kind of the way Flo and I have kind of imagined our staffs, whether we're all together collectively or broken up, we wanted to have that kind of cross the ball feel to all the conversations going on and at a really high level at all the time. But Thad coached the position when we were in LA. He's done nothing but just impress people since he first arrived, and have really grown in the defensive staff with Swerve and DJ and Hutch and Marcus, and it just kind of felt like it was Thad's time. Flo certainly felt like that, and then we feel really good about the young assistant position coaches that we do have and how those guys can really play to make sure, especially this time of year, as you guys have seen, when we split those fields up, I want every single player feeling like they're being coached and have a set of eyes on them through the learning and teaching phase, that these guys are truly learning and getting taught and developing so that they can have their best chance to help our team come the fall.
Coach, what does it mean, obviously, to this team, but then just you personally, to have Harrison Smith sticking around, coming back for another season?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about, I could have a whole press conference just on what Harry's meant to me as during my time here as the head coach. I tell people all the time I haven't coached today for the Vikings without him as a major kind of pillar of our team and a resource for me. Consider him somebody that I trust wholeheartedly with our team and his interpretation of how I'm reaching the team. And Harry's got a lot of pressure on him because, he's probably I think he's probably more excited than anybody that I'm turning 40 soon, so I can get out of the get out of the 30 club with him. But no, he means the world. And I think when you look at some of those impactful veteran guys we brought back, Harrison Smith, Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy, these guys that have, really established what the players have built here, which is, I think, an unbelievable culture that people want to be a part of and really want to try to grow and continue to chase what we're all here chasing. These guys are the right kind of guys to do it with, and it starts with Harry. Those other guys I mentioned, they're huge foundational pillars for me as we build a football team. You need those players both from an X's and O's and ability standpoint, but also selfishly for me with what we're really trying to do here, what they fill this building with, and gives me a lot of confidence when we have guys like that.
Coach, when Harrison Smith re-signed here in his presser, he kind of talked about coming back and having something to play for.
Mm-hmm.
And all the guys in the offseason are talking about Super Bowls and things like that. What's the message from you to the players right now at the beginning of offseason?
Yeah, I think one of the things I shared with the guys this morning is they hear it in this meeting every year, no matter what we've built here, no matter what the players, more importantly, have built here from a culture standpoint, winning a lot of football games. That really doesn't mean a whole lot. This is a new team. This is a new version of the Minnesota Vikings in 2025. And I think it's important that we don't, that we really evaluate individually and collectively what are we doing on a daily basis to make sure that we can reinvent and become what we've been, but push beyond that and really start. We've made it to the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, but when I look at it and I really think about our football teams in those moments, were we a championship-worthy team? That's for everyone to decide, but we know here the little areas, the small improvements that we can make, and why wait to when those games get a little bit closer on the horizon? Why wait to talk like that? We should be talking in a way where every action, everything we say, think, and do needs to be applied with what we all know that common goal is. But the way this league works in 17 games and trying to find your way to punch your ticket into the playoffs is one thing, but what's it like when you get there? What's your football team like? What's the makeup of your team look like, and how does that translate to having a real chance to go after that Lombardi Trophy? So I think this time of year, it's just phase one. We're on a very limited schedule with these guys. You don't want to come out give your best pep talk you've ever had, but you need to make sure that these guys know from day one we have laser focus on getting a little bit better, on finding ways to improve, being selfish about being a great teammate and committing to this time of year for the value that it does still have. And then let's take it with that same minute-by-minute approach, maximizing our time together and see what that looks like when this 8-9 weeks ends.
Kevin, when you talk about J.J.'s been able to push it on the field from a throws perspective, where have you, I guess, hearing from him, where has he seen that show up? What kinds of throws have made him feel like he's all the way back?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. It's the type of throws where I think he's making a lot of throws that are required in our offense, different types of drops, different types of rhythm and timing and velocity and things like that. But then it's the total number of throws, being able to stack some really high number days. I don't think, based upon, from what I've heard, based upon what we'll ask of him throughout the spring, I don't know if he'll have a day where he throws as many balls as he was throwing during a 2-hour rehab session when he was pairing that with running and lifting and all the work he was doing with our folks here. So I think he's already there. Now it's just a matter of applying it with teammates and with detail and with repetition to try to apply those reps so we can start projecting, what not only he can continue to improve at, what are the areas we need to focus on, how can we craft this offense to make sure that we're doing the things that he does well naturally while also challenging him to grow that pot of inventory that we can ultimately pull from.
Just going off of that, do you expect any limitations with him once y'all are back on the field?
I don't.
Where's Christian Darrisaw at in his recovery?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Christian, and I'll give you guys to finish here, I'll give you guys a couple updates on a few players, but Christian has absolutely knocked it out of the park so far, working alongside our staff here. He's had a really, really good offseason up until this point. The latest update I got, he's lifting, he's running, he's doing things that are, depending on timelines and all those things, I've long since told you guys what diplomas I don't have on the wall. Besides my one from San Diego State that I'm very proud of. A medical degree is not one of them. But the player that I see right now and the player that I know his teammates came back to see today, people were pretty excited about where he's at. Now it's just a matter of maintaining, and he's had such a professional focus with very, very really from day one, remarkably. He's just had such a good attitude about attacking it, knowing exactly what he is and who he is as a player, and working his way right back to that place and beyond. So feel really good about that. We talked about J.J. a little bit, but I'd consider him full, really no limitations. Mekhi Blackman is a guy kind of heading towards the end point of that rehab from his ACL, and I see him progressing to football activities here as we move through the spring. Hargrave's another one that will probably be limited a little bit early on, but should progress throughout the spring. And then Will Fries and Hargrave are kind of in a similar spot, but expect those guys to progress at a pretty good clip, especially as we head towards phase 2. And then, that's about it. We had a couple other guys with little cleanups and things here and there, but all of those players are full. So we're in a good spot. We need to make sure that for those injured players that rehab and their individualized program remains the most important thing. But mixing in some meetings and talking a little ball here and there is always a healthy thing as well. So fired up. I think he's always somebody that, when in doubt, he's probably here is the rule I like to use. But it was good to see him get out and about, whether it was, the golf deal they did with some of the NFLPA guys and some of our teammates down there, or just any time, making sure. The biggest thing is this thing is a year-round thing for him. Obviously, where we missed on getting him some live reps and a continued physical development during the season, it has not been lost on me, just the way he's worked, the way he's progressed through his rehab and had a real focus and intention to being a guy that shows up every day with a plan, and he leaves here better than he was when he got here that morning, and that's a pretty good trait to have for a quarterback, especially a young one, that is going to keep getting better.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.